Hello and welcome to Inside the Naval Postgraduate School here on the Pentagon Channel. From Monterey, California, I'm your host, Alan Richmond. Welcome to the show. Well, in this edition, we'll talk about a group of educators and government and military officials who all converged on the Monterey Peninsula to participate in TEF. TEF. We'll tell you more about that. We'll also examine the future of the United States Navy's submarine force with Admiral John Padgett. But first, it's time for some tactical network exercise testing out in the field. Well, on this edition of Inside NPS, we happen to be at Camp Roberts, California, talking with Ray Bittner about our TNT exercises. Ray, tell us a little bit about what's going on this time around at Camp Roberts.
Well, we've got a big focus out here on supporting the Special Operations Warfighter, as we usually do. This time, what's a little bit unique is we're really focused on the communications aspect of that. How do we take care of the Special Operations Warfighter who's in a place where we can't get the usual high-end support of the entire U.S. high-bandwidth satellite system? So how do these soldiers in austere environments protect themselves, operate in small groups, 5 to 10 soldiers, and communicate the information that's vital for them to have in both directions? As you know, one of the advantages of the United States in warfare is that we can bring the information that the warfighter needs closer to the end of the spear more rapidly than most of the other countries on the planet, and that creates a unique advantage. But we have to be able to do that in all environments, not just when we have high connectivity satellites and those types of machines available. The ways we're exploring doing that include the robotic systems. Unmanned aerial vehicles are a big emphasis out here this time. We have several unmanned ground vehicles that attempt to extend the link, the connection to the soldier, even in hostile environments where your opponent's actively trying to prevent you from communicating.
Now, all of the work that goes on at Camp Roberts and the TNT exercises are really designed to support the warfighter directly, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Our primary sponsor is the United States Special Operations Command, and their S&T community is out here looking at how do we get that warfighter on the battlefield now and on the next generation battlefield, the technologies and capabilities that they need to be able to win the war rapidly and with the fewest possible casualties.
Now, I know today in this particular show we're going to be featuring some work that the Marine Corps is doing out here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually we have a really interesting experiment for over-the-horizon, beyond line-of-sight communications. It's actually a combination of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force and the United States Commander 3rd Fleet, the Navy's experimentation fleet. Together, we actually have 2 NPS graduates, Marine Corps Majors Robinson and Nuschel, and they have designed an experiment to help explore how does that ground force supported by naval ships over the horizon in the communications domain when those satellite links are disrupted or interfered with by an opponent. So we've got a scenario involving a downed pilot. We've got villagers and local scene actors playing out roles. We've got Air Force National Guard search and rescue helicopters participating. We have current Navy postgraduate school students participating. A really dynamic exercise intended to help the Marine Corps and the Navy explore the edge of technology and how do they get video, voice, data links down to these soldiers in an environment where your opponent's actively trying to prevent you from communicating.
Great. And one of the things I love that you always say is that failure is an acceptable outcome at TNT, correct?
Absolutely. This is a learning environment. That's where we're kind of unique in DoD. This is before the acquisition process starts. We're not trying to figure out the best radio. We're trying to figure out what types of radios, what types of networks, what types of links will allow people to communicate. And to determine that, we have to test the edges of those technologies. Very interesting today at the brief, our Marine Major stood up and said, yesterday we demonstrated the current state of the art. This didn't work, that didn't work, this failed, and today we're trying to address those technologies. And everybody laughed, and the team just comes together. We actually have the National Assessment Group of folks, of very high quality RF engineers that help the government determine in a test and evaluation sense what works and what doesn't. Well, out here they come out and they help people address their problems. So they're helping the Marines and the Navy figure out what some of those shortfalls in the current systems were and how we might address those with the new technologies we're looking at today.
Great. Well, always exciting to come down to TNT at Camp Roberts, so thanks very much for your good work.
Thanks for coming down, Alan. Always welcome.
Thanks. We also had the opportunity to look at some of the UAVs being tested at TNT.
We were given the opportunity to come out to TNT to demonstrate our digitally fused sensor system. Digitally fused sensor system has grown out of the enhanced night vision goggle, which combines both a low light camera with a uncooled long wave IR camera. We originally flew it in Raven a couple years ago, And we're given the challenge to see if we could make it small enough to fit in the current family of small UASs. We've done that, and this is sort of a proof of principle. Working out here is nice because it's a little bit different environment than we're used to. We had some fog this morning that we're chasing, seeing how well it does looking through fog. Digital fused sensor system gives the warfighter the ability to have tactically significant items like people, vehicles, stand out of the background. It also combines a high-def camera, so we see great details. We see things like fence rows, light poles, infrastructure items that sometimes get missed, and we see it day and night. So that's what we're out here doing. We're very happy with the way the sensor is performing. People have come up and see it. They immediately understand why it's a better way to look at the world, fusing multiple spectrum together and showing you more detail than you'd ever see in one or the other by themselves.
Up next, we're joining the United States Marine Corps for a recovery mission.
3rd Fleet and 1 MEF, 1st Marine Expeditionary Force out of Camp Pendleton, California, are trying to do a communications exercise to prove out the ability of certain communications assets to do ship-to-shore communications. So we have an inability right now to do high-throughput wideband data and voice back to the ship when forces move ashore. So we started working with the National Guard and with the Air National Guard, the Army National Guard out of California, the Air National Guard, to actually put together some scenarios that would help them in their training and that would help us prove out our communications capabilities and some of the future things that we plan to do with tactical wideband handhelds, man-pack radios, and then a wideband high-throughput link called a Sea Lancet that we're looking at possibly putting on ships to replace our legacy systems. The scenario that we came up with in working with the National Guard was that we were going to establish an embassy back at Camp Roberts, and then the battle space would actually be up here at Hunter Liggett. And the reason we did that was because of the distances between the two and then the mountains that are in between the two as well. So we needed to have a tactical forward edge of the battle area where we had wideband handheld radios and then computing devices, handheld computing devices and cameras connected through into the man-pack radios and into a modified networking on the move vehicle over here. And we're going to stream the video back, and hopefully we're going to close the link back to the Tactical Operations Center back at Camp Roberts, and then also stream it back down into the makeshift embassy that we have set up. So the scenario is basically that we have a down pilot that went down somewhere in this vicinity here, and then the bad guys, right, behind us here, our role players, actually capture the pilot. So we have a helicopter come in that has a wideband networking radio in it and provides an aerial retrans capability for us. So they provide the aerial retrans capability for us, while we also have an MC-130 from the Air National Guard up above us at about 10,000 feet, providing a robust wideband comm link back to Camp Roberts again, into the TOC and into the to the embassy. That way the rescue personnel can actually prosecute the mission. So come in here with the recon team, get eyes on the actual village itself, try to locate the downed pilot, and then they come into this village here and execute a raid to recapture or to repatriate the downed pilot.
Well, stay with us. There's more to come here on the Pentagon Channel on Inside NPS, including TEF. It's next. The Transformative Education Forum, or TEF, recently held in Monterey, California, was sponsored by the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy and the Office of Naval Research Global. Participation included select NPS faculty and researchers, as well as a cross-section of invited leaders from all levels of academia, business, government, and non-government sectors from around the world. Here's NPS Provost and Executive Vice President Leonard Ferrari. First of all, what is TEF?
TEF stands for the Transformative Education Forum. It's an international forum. This year we have about 75 people from about 25 different countries coming to discuss how education needs to be transformed across the world to deal with some of the really big challenges of the 21st century.
Now, how did TEF come about? Because I know you were instrumental in helping form this alliance that's come together here in Monterey.
A group of us from the Middle East, from Singapore, from Europe, decided that it would be interesting to try to put together a Global Challenges Forum where we could bring people together to look at issues such as the global economy, cybercrime, education around the world, poverty, and basically look at the root causes of some of the counterterrorism that happens around the world, as well as why aren't the Millennium Development Goals at the United Nations being met. So we formed the Global Challenges Forum as a Geneva foundation, and we discovered that one of the most important things that we could do was to look at at global education and see if we couldn't come up with a common theme, a set of principles that would work across all countries.
Now, another component of this is agricultural issues in Africa and how they can improve those areas to help feed the people of Africa. And we're working with Mayor Dennis Donahue in Salinas and President of Hartnell College, Phoebe Helm. Talk a little bit about what we hope to achieve with that, with the visitors here.
About 3 months ago, we held a meeting that was co-hosted by AFRICOM and AFCEA, where we had about a dozen people coming from Africa to talk to us about the issues that Africa was facing. And of course, world hunger and food shortages have been a problem around the world for many, many years. The Africans just stated that although the U.S. has been extremely generous to the African states, one of the things that they would like to do is to learn how to grow food on their own so that they become a self-sustaining continent. And we decided that I brought Dennis Donahue into this picture, and Dennis and I talked about the fact that Salinas, with the Central California food growers and shippers, with Hartnell College, with the USDA Agricultural Research Center that Congressman Farr helped to set up, could become a center of education, global education for agriculture.
Why, in the big picture of things, would Department of Defense be interested in this program?
Well, the interesting thing is, as I meet people not only in the Pentagon but from around the world that are military leaders, they are becoming more and more concerned about prevention of conflict and the root causes of terrorism, as opposed to, or in addition to, the kinds of activities and tactics that we use for reacting to terrorism. So I think if we can address some of the root causes of terrorism, which are poverty, disenfranchised youth that we've seen around the world, even within the last year, there's a growing movement of people who seem to be disenfranchised. Some of those may use political means and stay within the democratic processes, but others may just turn to terrorism. So I think it's important to understand how, through education, one can help these people move from the disenfranchised state into a state where they can be productive members of their own society and therefore a global society.
Well, we're speaking with the mayor of Salinas, California, Dennis Donahue. Dennis, thank you very much for taking time to speak with us. Now, this is a big event where the African leaders, many of them are here today to come over to Salinas, and shipper growers are supporting this effort. Tell us a little bit about what you hope to accomplish.
Well, part of what we want to do is, just like a picture's worth 1,000 words, we want to show these leaders exactly what we do in the Salinas Valley so they can see it for themselves. We really are state of the art, as it were, on particularly post-harvest issues. The ability to grow things all over the world, that's fairly standard place. Obviously you can do that with more efficiency, but where the rubber really meets the road is what happens on the post-harvest basis. So I want them to have an opportunity to see how we get the crops out of the ground, the cooling facilities we have, the processing facilities we have. So what we really want to do is really show off the variety of Monterey County agriculture. So we should have an opportunity to look at broccoli, we should have an opportunity to look at strawberries, we should have an opportunity to even take a look at our grape industry for the wine industry, just from a production standpoint. So I think they'll have a good takeaway of exactly what we do here.
Now, I guess the question comes up is, how does this relate to the Department of Defense, and why are we bringing leaders together? I mean, they're here for the TEF conference, but as a part of this is an opportunity that you saw that we're the salad bowl of the world,
Right.
which everybody knows, and this is technology that we can really share that will help in the long run, even from a military standpoint.
Well, exactly. You know, as I often tell people, I'm just a mayor, but if I were to make a casual geopolitical observation, when folks can feed themselves, that really, I think, makes for the basis for a strong society, a strong nation, and hopefully cooperation. But in many respects, what Leonard Ferrari and I talked about is this is really a scale-based version of 3 cups of tea, in the sense that because what we do here out of our valley, you know, we're responsible for almost 80% of the North American fresh row crop production. We also are the headquarters for 90% of North American fresh value-added production. So the reality out of this valley, we feed North America, as it were. And likewise, if you look at Africa, if you can find the right regions to be productive, and then build in that overlay of infrastructure and logistics, it really, and I know the leaders I spoke to were very excited about that type of possibility. Besides feeding yourself, it also becomes a huge economic development opportunity, because you have to build roads, you have to build coolers, and it really raises, I think, the society as a whole to modernize agriculture.
Hartnell College of Salinas, California was also engaged with this forum. Here's Hartnell College President Phoebe Helm.
Well, first of all, it's my first experience at a TEF conference, and I was excited to be included. And so thank you, and thank the folks at the Naval Postgraduate School for that invitation. For me, I think those of us who've called ourselves educators for lots of years have to look at the world's issues today and recognize that somewhere, I think we've missed the boat. So we have a new opportunity, and I'm proud to be part of a group that's trying to address that. That new opportunity is to look at the world's issues from a worldview. Technology makes that possible in ways we'd never thought about. The ability to facilitate learning in ways that are totally different from school, as many of us experienced it, and to address the disparities worldwide, whether that's disparities in wealth, disparities in quality of life, or in opportunity. Those are the differences that, to me, educators are, by conscience, by heart, and by head, must address. Absolutely a shared concern about the quality of life and the welfare of people, and the deep belief that education is the road out of poverty, it's the road out of conflict, and it's the road out of a better environment and a greater opportunity to share the earth in a more positive, humane way. I think if we can do at least one thing, which is to broaden the horizon of what learning might be and how teaching might facilitate that, and how we might collectively increase those opportunities. I think at least that. I think I'm too old to look for a magic wand that is going to be one little pill that we can all take and solve everything. But I do think that we have a magical opportunity to be accepting of others, to look for different points of view, and to recognize that many, many people worldwide are addressing the same issues that we are, and that we're not superior in that process. And to me, that's an extremely new place for many Americans to be.
A clear and continuing theme during the discussion was that Western teaching styles are influencing teaching methods on the African continent as well as Asia. Well, coming up after the break, we'll look at the future of the United States Navy submarine force. Stay with us. Recently, NPS welcomed another in our guest speaker series to address our students on the future of the U.S. Navy submarine force. Admiral John B. Padgett is president of the Naval Submarine League of the United States, following a 34-year career in the United States Navy. A career submarine officer, Padgett commanded the attack submarine USS Omaha, served as commander of Submarine Squadron 11, and was the 75th Commandant of Midshipmen at the U.S. Naval Academy. Following selection to flag rank, Padgett served on the staff of the United States Strategic Command, on the staff of the Chief of Naval Operations, and as Commander, Submarine Group 2. Padgett's final assignment was active duty as the 30th Commander, Submarine Force U.S. Pacific Fleet. A 1969 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering, Mr. Padgett also holds a Master of Science degree in Engineering Science and Mechanics from Georgia Institute of Technology. Admiral, thank you very much for taking time to appear with us here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. Well, you know, a lot of people are curious about submarines. How did you get involved in the submarine business, so to speak? And tell us a little bit about your past history.
Well, my dad was a submariner, so it came naturally to me. And then when I was at the Naval Academy in the late 60s, the Cold War was going. And there was always the enticement of the Cold War mission on nuclear attack submarines in particular, and also ballistic missile submarines being the cornerstone of the nuclear strategic deterrent.
Well, certainly being on a submarine beneath the ocean surface is not for everybody. It must take kind of a special person to be in the submarine service.
I believe it does. I think intellectual discipline and intellectual honesty are two of the most important parts, just from the standpoint of understanding the platform. There is very little margin for error. It has to be done right the first time and every time, because if you don't get it right, it's a very unforgiving environment.
With all the talk about budget cutbacks, how do you think that'll affect the future of the submarine force?
Well, I think certainly there is no question but that the defense budget is coming down. And as the budget comes down, people who make decisions are going to have to make decisions about where to invest the precious resources that the taxpayers provide. From my perspective, parochial though it may be, I think that the submarine community provides a tremendous return on investment. I think that the fact that you build these ships ahead of schedule, we've been delivering them ahead of schedule and under budget now for the duration of the Virginia class program. We just shifted to 2 ships per year to drive out more cost. And so I think that a fair assessment would say that if you have very, very cherished dollars to invest, you're going to look very favorably on the submarine programs, because they have demonstrated they can deliver what they promise. And in fact, they've actually beat their schedule and cost estimates.
Well, because of the classified nature that submarines are involved with, do you think that makes it a little more difficult for the return on investment, and how you explain that to someone to gain your support?
I think it does make it more challenging. My impression and my belief is that the senior leadership understands the value of submarines. The Secretary of Defense has been quite vocal in supporting the fact that submarines are a good investment. The Chief of Naval Operations, Roughhead, who was a surface warfare officer, was quite vocal in his support for the performance of submarines. If you go to the combatant commanders in any of the theaters, in particular though the Western Pacific, they'll tell you the importance of having submarines forward deployed, in place, ready to respond to the contingencies that might come up.
Tell us a little bit about how we're doing with ongoing development in the submarine world.
The Ohio Replacement Program is on track. It has received good, solid financial support in the current budget plan. It is in the prototyping and refining of the design. It's passed its milestone A requirements, and it's moving along quite well.
I'm wondering if you can comment a little bit about the tone of the message you'll be delivering to the students at Naval Postgraduate School.
Well, I think the primary focus of my discussion is to point out that we are doing very, very well. We have a credible program that's executing. It's the the shining light within Department of Defense, to quote some. And these programs are soundly based. The industrial base infrastructure, I think, is aligned and has been honed to be very efficient. I think the importance of sustaining a build rate of 2 per year is crucial for our continued success.
Well, of course, the Naval Postgraduate School is known for its cutting-edge research. I'm wondering what you think about the relevance of NPS today.
I think it's absolutely essential. I think that the investment in the intellectual development of our young officers in particular is crucial. As the technology evolves and becomes more elegant, more sophisticated, we need to have people who have the depth of intellectual insight to be able to anticipate how new technologies can be applied to the challenges that we're going to face. I don't know any better way of doing it than giving them a good, solid educational base.
Well, Admiral Padgett, we appreciate your taking time to visit us here at NPS and to appear here on the Pentagon Channel. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Well, that's it for this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From Monterey, California, on the Pentagon Channel, I'm your host, Alan Richmond, wishing all of you and your families the happiest of holidays and giving you special thanks to your service to our nation and the world. Hurry home soon. Bye-bye, everybody.